We got a new uniform. They got it. They got new uniforms. We got what we wanted because they got the uniforms that they should have had since they showed up in the future. Woohoo!
We were holding our breath all season. Now at the end, we go,
Let's just put it out there right away. They should have had them as soon as they got the ship refitted. But they needed to make them last the entire season. And then as a storytelling conceit, as a, hey, now that you've proven yourself and you're part of the future fleet, now you get the uniforms. Fine. Storytelling conceit works. As a real life thing, not so much.
It's one of those things where the payoff, you understand why there was a certain setup. And therefore it works as a thematic thing, even if the logic isn't necessarily there as much. Really. Like, refit should have been refit. That was the moment, etc. But obviously they had to have the ship be able to fight, otherwise it would be destroyed in every subsequent scene, which it definitely wasn't.
and the refit took like 6 weeks, I think they said, or something.
They never asked for new uniforms at any point in the 6 weeks.
Yeah, like there's just some sketchy stuff going on there. And all season we were like, when are they going to use the new uniforms? So I'm glad we finally got that scene at the end, and it's the whole Michael Burnham becoming captain, then becoming part of the fleet. I think that was nicely done.
And we have talked about Michael Burnham become captain, so please check out that video to see our thoughts on that and our detailed breakdown with that.
Honestly, after having seen the new uniforms on the Discovery Bridge, I can kind of maybe understand why they didn't use them, because they don't really work thematically or color-wise with the colors of Discovery. I mean, there's probably a reason that's the new Starfleet headquarters. They designed it to be all white and have these uniforms, because the uniforms look crisp. They pop when they're in that space. When they're on the bridge here, it's kind of like it doesn't look right. Maybe it's just me. I just didn't see that those worked perfectly with that color scheme.
Yeah, I think I was more, obviously, we're going back to what we thought originally in that moment. It was such a satisfying moment, being shown as an audience member, as someone who analysed this show, getting vindication of they need new uniforms and they look better in the uniforms. Like, very few people, I think, can argue they look better in the old uniforms, etc., etc. But besides the fact they're more fitted. So obviously maybe their figures might look better, their muscles might look bigger. I know Culber probably looks better in his old one because it's, really detailed fit. Anyway. But that, just in terms of a technicality of, how they look uniformically, whatever. But I see what you mean. But this is where we've got the problem of the entire art design for the show was designed by Brian Fuller, who is extremely hands-on. He's the reason for the Klingons. He's the reason for the ship exteriors. He's the reason for the ship interiors. He's the reason for the costumes. He's the reason for all the props. He's the reason for the main rough story. But all the art design stuff is where he really, his hands are still firmly, grabbing at while they're being pulled away from him as seasons go on. And so this art design is extremely specific. It felt extremely out of place in season 1, not feeling like anything from Star Trek. Maybe the Mega Future, if you really want to go there, but it was super abstract. Like you say, once you now put the new art design inside of the extremely old art design, designed with very specific bright blue, they do get lost a bit. I didn't think that when I was watching it originally because I was just so excited, but when you start breaking down as we do, yeah, they are definitely lost. And it's weird because you would assume the white and grey would then knock them out, but it's because the background is so sort of grungy and muted, and they're so muted. It just, I'm looking at Washcombe here, like, when she's now got the infrared lights in her uniform now it's blue, and the background's blue.
Taking away the main complaint that a lot of people have is that these look too militaristic, which they kind of do. They look very dictatorish.
But obviously Wrath of Khan also looks blood red, extremely militaristic. And we all like those.
True.
And obviously First Contact, incredibly militaristic. That took away all of that bright Star Trekkiness, replaced it with a very, very dark military look.
But there was nice accoutrements to that, like the white band, the lines, on the pants, the belt. This is missing something in the middle. Like it really should have, because these look very reminiscent of the motion picture era uniforms, and they tried to make those look not as plain by putting a belt buckle in the middle of nowhere, which didn't really work. But another thing that carries over from the old uniforms design for these is the asymmetry. Now, it's not as noticeable because it's not in the collar, which we always hated because I really disliked that look personally.
It was a choice because Brian Fuller wanted it, not because of any real reason of aesthetics or design or art. So he thought it was a good idea. That's it.
Yeah, and it didn't. In my opinion, it didn't look good. Now you're wondering where it is here. If you look at the lower cut of the jacket, The side with the stripe is higher than the other side. It's very, very subtle, but I mean, in this case, the asymmetry kind of works. I wish it wasn't there still, but it is what it is. And I just hate that from one side, the uniforms, you can't tell what department anybody is. It's not instantly recognizable as it should be as far as color goes. You should be able to tell from behind somebody or whatever what department they're in. I mean, that's one of the reasons that the Monster Maroons had the different colored turtlenecks.
And it's interesting because when you start breaking it down, yeah, from a distance, for example, in the blue uniforms, the rank on the neck guard is completely lost because it's so dark. It's okay on the gold one, but you can't tell what rank Tilly is. We still can't. You really got to enhance it, etc. Same with the comm badges, because they're so shiny, they just look like a shiny oval. All the detail gets completely lost. No idea why that was. It feels like such a mistake, given that all the old comm badges are made of resin, still like metal, and yet all the detail pops. And I believe if they had a very visible like gold bright delta around a nice bright silver, that would boom pop.
Or even like, yeah, I like how you say that the rank gets lost, because it really does at a distance, because of the shiny metal or just whatever. But even for my complaint of having the stripe on one side, then have on the opposite sleeve the rank, a stripe or two on the opposite sleeve in the color, the division color, because that way it's still recognizable from whatever side as to what rank and department they're in. Not that that's really super important, I guess, but
well, it's a uniform. It should be easily uniformly noticeable.
Yeah, like for security footage, you should be able to see, okay, that's a lieutenant doing whatever in that hallway. And really, from certain angles, you wouldn't be able to tell with this for sure.
What's the difference between an art design versus a functional design?
That's a good point. Actually.
Which this is definitely on that line. And in fact, you're really making me think about this in a different way. I'm looking at that group shot with Kolber, who's a good example of it. Instantly, I'm thinking with this, wouldn't it be better if at the top of that blue bar to have the rank as pips? Big, bold pips. They would pop instantly. Nice gold or silver, whatever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, whatever. Understandable right there. Linked to Voyager because on that side. I mean, the collar I'm okay with. I would probably have something else there still. But like on the white, let it pop. And then you could have, like you say, maybe a secondary rank on a stripe.
I totally agree. I think that would be a lot better, and it could be a design design evolution as the pips are kind of moving from the collar over here. That would work. That would work for me.
Because it is weird to have two. I mean, I know we just said have two rank versions in here, but they got a rank pip on the comm badge, which is completely lost, and a rank pip on the neck, which is also somewhat lost.
Well, the only one that's really recognizable at distance is the captain, because they got the two shoulder things.
I think the gold pop's okay, but
yeah, at first I thought the stripes were the rank on the collars, but they're not, because everybody has two stripes. Burnham has the four pips above the stripes.
Oh.
And nobody else has pips above the stripes. So it's almost like there is no rank on the collars.
That's interesting. What's the point of having the two lines like a tick?
And then no idea.
Why would you?
It looks like a check mark.
Maybe it's just like this symbolizes officer. Like you have unlisted. I mean, it's not as if you don't have.
It's just odd. I just noticed that the captain has the two stripes and the 4 rank pips. Nobody else has rank pips above their stripes. Nobody. So it's all on the comm badge, I guess.
Which then doubles. I mean, I'm not going to edit it out because that's a good well done for seeing that. So it does take away the complaint of it being two rank things, except for the bonus one. But I guess maybe they're.
And even on the comm badge, like I didn't mind it in Future Imperfect, because you could see how many stripes they were behind the delta. These ones you really got to get up close to see what the hell kind of rank you are.
It gets lost.
It's a small thing. Yeah, I like your idea of putting it at the top of the stripe, actually.
And then, not that I'm necessarily a big fan of the triangle ones, but maybe a circle with a square underneath it of another color, kind of like the Admiral's braid. And if I just went back and looked, and yeah, you're right, everyone has the two lines, so I don't know what that represents then. I love how this ended up becoming a full discussion of the uniform, which we can bring back to a full analysis of all the uniforms put together, which we'll do at some point. And it is, in that view of the entire crew, it is interesting that unlike the Discovery uniforms, the original, which I'm glad now say are the ex-Discovery uniforms, because you either looked really good or really bad. There wasn't a ton of middle because they were fitted, so either this one, everyone looks really different.
Mention one more thing about the ring pips. I'm looking at this picture of Burnham right now. she's got 4 sets of rank pips. 1 on each shoulder, 1 on the neck, and 1 on the comm badge. So she's a quadruple captain, guys. Like, they wanted us to know that she's a captain. So yeah, guys, let us know what you thought about these uniforms. Did you notice the things that we did? Like, until we started talking about these, I really thought that the stripes were indicators of rank. They're not. There's a lot here to talk about. So let us know your thoughts on these new uniforms. Put it down in the comments section. And as always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell icon, do all that cool stuff. Join us for our lives where we have great discussions about these kind of things and get your input in real time. So,
but
yeah.
Briefly, I think though your first point I'll end on as well. That I think this is a symbol of things to come. That they're moving away from the Brian Fuller art design, both literally in the future, but also aesthetically that they just don't want to keep it going. So I think we're absolutely going to need to see a refresh of the bridge set. Add all of the sets to fit in with this aesthetic more. And I think that's going to be a breath of fresh air in every regard. Hopefully with a smaller set, but I mean they're used to the constraints of that one. Hopefully, because it definitely stands out more as being massively antiquated against newer uniforms. It's like you've done everything else, the exterior and all the it's just like why not change the
Yeah, I mean, these would look better on the new Enterprise bridge that they did for just the Disco Enterprise because it's got the black floors. This has a gray floor, gray turbolift doors, so the gray gets lost very easily.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yes, of course, and support us. If you don't want to get lost easily, then help us out on Patreon, PayPal, join the channel on YouTube, super chat on those lives you mentioned because we absolutely love that. It's a direct communication. We're easy to find, but we love having a conversation that can easily be a $5 and we have a 10-minute conversation, and that might itself change someone's perspective on an entire bit of Trek, and we love that because we are not haters, lovers, whatever. We are just us being honest and being true to that. So yeah, support if you can. If you can't, don't worry, we're free either way. Just enjoy it, like and subscribe.
That's right. So until next time, guys. According to his rank pips, I think he's Commander Cockings.
And he is Vice Admiral, Chief of Head of Science Division. Stuart, do you just throw more stuff on you? I mean, are you just being a Burnham with lots and lots of rank? Is that what you're doing here?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of captain stuff everywhere, so you think I'm something higher than I am. So until next time, bye.
Bye, guys.